spend that money better to supply the needs of this county for the long term.
Supervisor Smith, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Well, I have concerns because I don't believe we have the contract in front of us, because I didn't get anything in the packet that goes with item number 10.
The only contract we have is a water study.
So my concern is, because this is up to, basically being, the approval is up to 40 hours a week for a full-time position for 52 weeks, basically, up to. You're saying it probably won't take that. But we don't know is this person going to work full-time? Is this person going to be in Mendocino County residing, or is this person going to be living out of the county?
This person I introduced this morning, and we are basically going to figure out the work hours, I think probably on a month-to-month basis, depending on what's going on. So, for example, looking at the month of July, there's a board presentation and some other things, so that I would expect a certain amount of time that she will be present in the county. There might be a month where more of the work can be done via email, and so that work, she might not be present as much. But we've talked about being present at least 2 days a week, and possibly up to 4 days a week as necessary. And, I'll be working with the individual so that we tailor the schedule to the tasks at hand. And so that's why I feel very confident in saying it's up to, and this was simply to be able to address any contingency that, if there was a week we needed 40 hours, we could, but I don't think most weeks are going to be 40 hours. What we've talked about is kind of an average of around 30 to 32 hours, a 4-day week, when there are active projects. And, the time frame just didn't seem like we wanted to keep coming back every several months to renew it. But there is an out clause of giving notice, and that notice can be given during the time period that if we have selected a chief planner, we'll know when they're starting, and then we give notice so that we can have one end and the other begin, and move forward. The time frames that were presented to you this morning assumed a seamless transition between Phil Gorney and Audrey Knight so that we could continue on. And I take exception to saying that, we've got some time and that we're not on, any kind of time frame. We are trying to make sure that there is time for what appear to be regular contingency issues beyond our control that come up. That does not mean that we don't have to adhere to time frames and keep moving this stuff along. We've got major deadlines coming up in the month of July, and a lot of work that will need to be done around the water study. And again, this manager is going to be pivotal in working with Roland Sanford and being able to manage that water contract. You don't just hand a pile of money over to a consultant. You need to manage that contract, administer it, to make sure that they're delivering what they need to, and that it's being processed through the county, that arrangements are made to present it to the board, et cetera. So that position is really important, and I rely heavily on that position being filled so that I can do my work in providing liaison to the board.
Well,
so
I have concerns along the lines of capacity building that Supervisor Colfax talked about, because I think when you're truly having someone that's not a resident or someone who's not committed to the county and county employment, you have a hard time getting that capacity. I also have a hard time seeing how this person's going to be working as a mentor when the person's going to be basically a visitor. So there's a different dynamic, a different relationship. There are costs associated when someone is traveling. So is the county picking up the cost of this? Are we paying those commute hours? Is that part of what? Are we paying actual hours of time for the person to arrive because they're a consultant? Are we paying for the associated expenses of staying in the county? I don't know that then it's a cost-effective way of using the $177,000. So I'm seeing that, and the other problem is when, and I think it's excellent that you mentioned the management of the contract. But one of what I really think we need to have is a planner who manages a planner for the contractual relationship, and we don't have the planner in place to manage the contract. I think you really need a planner with planning expertise and that professionalism to fully understand the benchmarks and the milestones of where the contractual specifics are going. So I think we're lacking on that. So I'm tending to agree that we continue to put large amounts of money, and I do sympathize with the issue of not being able to attract. So maybe we need to take another look at our salary schedule. Maybe we need to make other attempts to recruit. But I think if we don't start building the capacity, we're not getting anywhere, because we're continuing to fill it with a multitude of contracts. And I have real concerns, since we don't have the document, what are we actually paying for? And we don't have a lead planner that's actually going to manage the contract.
Okay, well, if I could respond to that, the lead planner for the purposes of the planning team is this position. And so what we would be buying is, as I said, a wide range of expertise. Phil Gorney and I both interviewed this individual. We also checked references. And this is the sort of individual we would we would hire for a chief planner if someone would work at our salary level. And they won't, and this is the only way to access that.
But then if this is our salary level, why don't we hire this person? In other words, if you're saying we're not paying any more, we're really paying the same that we would have if it was a
salary plus benefits. Benefits are close to 40 to 50% of the cost.
That.
So that increases what that looks like. And as far as managing the contract and working with that, it's worked just fine with Phil Gorney and working with this office, and so I don't expect anything differently in this particular case, and Phil is still available to assist. I need to stress that this is a pivotal position, and that we need it for the continuity, and we need it to be able to continue on the time frames that just this morning we were committing to. And I recognize that the timeframes may be longer than some people want, but they are timeframes and deadlines nevertheless that require that we stay on task and keep moving along. So, I would appreciate the support of the planning team's work and the work that you've said that you wanted, so that we could move forward on this.
Okay. Supervisor Pinches, if you could be brief.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Allison, the timelines, you say there's timelines we have to meet. All these timelines, they're not state law or anything, they're self-imposed. So this board, we've extended them how many times before? We can extend them if we need again. It's not just that $177,000 contract with PMC. We're also asked to approve a $276,000 contract with them. We're going to pay this firm for over $450,000. $450,000,
Okay.
And when you combine them both, my point is, and then you mentioned that part of it is for this global warming stuff, and then you said earlier, well, actually in-house with our planning team, we were able to do some of that work anyway. So, like Kendall says, what's in the scope of the work and not? But my main point is, I just think we ought to back off here and review the big picture of this. We've taken this whole general plan UVAP update and put a piece of the puzzle together and keep adding puzzles, and every piece of the puzzle costs us hundreds of thousands of dollars. Maybe because we're not on this time crunch anymore, maybe we just ought to stop and look at the big picture and make sure we're doing it right. I'm not saying going to these contracts is wrong. All I'm saying is let's maybe take a month